My family had a private beach we'd visit every summer, about an hour's drive down the main road to an unmarked dirt path. We found it while searching for a restroom, and with not so much as an outhouse in sight, my dad had driven our old station wagon off the nearest exit to let me pee in a bush. The entrance was full of rusted old signs, some barely legible from decades of weathering. Private property, keep out. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted, they'd shout, like crotchety old men waving their canes. Old men we ignored while we played in the sand, too sick of the road to search for parking at a crowded beach another 20 miles out. It was our own little playground, where none would disturb us. A stretch of beach long forgotten by locals and tourists alike, breaking the smoothness of the wave-worn shores with our footprints felt magical, like the first stroke of paint on a blank canvas. My sister and I would search for treasures in colourful tidal pools, grubby fingers grasping in the crystal clear water for shells long abandoned, driftwood and coins from distant lands. The sea's bounty was vast, and we were the ones to claim it. When the sun had set, and our hands were white and wrinkled, we'd bundle up in towels and join our parents by the light of a crackling fire. Dad would recount stories about his surfer days, and we'd sit surrounded by warmth, love, and plenty of marshmallows. It was our secret haven, a pristine shore unspoiled by man. It was because of these memories that when it came my turn to plan the family reunion, I chose our private beach as a resort. We packed coolers full of watermelon, a grill, wieners, beach balls, towels, and some plastic digging tools for a sandcastle contest. It had been over 15 years, but eventually we found the same old beach, with the same old signs we ignored in the same old ways. Mum and Dad settled down in their lawn chairs in the shade, while I herded my family towards a campsite to help with the tent. Around sunset, it was time for the bonfire, and John, my brother-in-law, was nowhere to be seen. I remembered him taking the kids out to see the tidal pools, and asked them if they knew where he was. Giggling, they replied that they'd buried him up to his neck in sand over by the big rocks. Squinting, we could just barely make out the spot where his head poked out, shielded from the sun by a goofy straw hat. With a sigh and an eye roll, my sister and I set out to dig up her husband. As we got closer, he shouted something, but we couldn't quite make it out against the roar of the ocean waves. He kept shouting, tossing sand into his mouth, and knocking off his hat. "Hang in tight, we'll get you out," we called back, and quickened our pace to a jog. Out of the corner of my eye, I spied something move in the craters of sand we kicked up. The shouting stopped by the time we reached him. John's head leaned back against the sand, eyes unfocused in a glassy stare. I slapped him. No response. We dug at him urgently, me with the pail and my sister with the shovel. She jumped back. Hundreds, if not thousands of squirming, worm-like creatures were eating John's body. They crawled in and out of the tunnels they bore through his flesh, wriggling, as we brushed them off with the plastic tools, and curling up on contact with the ground. Their pale, inch-long bodies pulsed darkly as they lapped up his blood. I whipped out my cell phone light to get a better look, but they made a strange buzzing sound and retreated, tunneling beneath his skin, jerking his ribcage this way and that. We left him half buried and ran back, shouting at everyone to get to the cars, where we called the police. When they got here, they took one look at John and made another call. A couple of guys in hazmat suits showed up and took him away. While we waited, I reread the signs by the entrance. finding a faded yellow notice we'd missed. Warning, this property is condemned by the authority of the State Police Department.